The coffee cup trembled in Marcus Thompson's hand as he stood frozen in the doorway of the cafe, staring at a woman who had haunted his dreams for 15 years. Sarah Chen sat alone by the window, her profile illuminated by the afternoon sun, and for a moment, time collapsed. She was older now, more refined, but those eyes, those impossibly kind eyes that had once promised him forever, were unmistakable. His daughter Emma tugged at his worn jacket, reminding him they were blocking the entrance, but Marcus couldn't move. The last time he'd seen Sarah, they were 22 years old, standing in the rain outside her parents' restaurant, and she was crying as she told him goodbye. Marcus had loved Sarah with the reckless intensity of youth. They'd met during his senior year of college, two kids working late-night shifts at the campus library, bonding over terrible coffee and bigger dreams. Sarah wanted to revolutionize sustainable technology. Marcus was going to be a civil engineer, building bridges that would stand for centuries. They'd stay up until dawn, mapping out a future that seemed as certain as sunrise. But life, as Marcus had learned the hard way, rarely follows the blueprint. Sarah's parents had owned a small Chinese restaurant in downtown Portland, struggling to keep the doors open while putting her through school. When her father had a stroke during Marcus's final semester, everything changed. Sarah dropped out to help her mother run the business. Marcus had proposed then and there, promising they'd figure it out together, but Sarah had been firm. She couldn't let him sacrifice his future, couldn't watch him give up his dreams to work double shifts at a restaurant that might fail anyway. She'd kissed him one last time in that rain, and then she'd walked away, leaving Marcus standing alone with a ring he'd saved 6 months to buy. Now, 15 years later, Marcus was a 37-year-old single father whose dreams had long since been buried under the weight of reality. His engineering career had never launched. His ex-wife Danielle had gotten pregnant 3 months after he graduated, and suddenly, diapers and daycare had mattered more than job opportunities. They'd married quickly, divorced quicker. Danielle had left when Emma was 4, choosing her freedom over motherhood, sending child support checks that barely covered groceries. Marcus worked as a construction supervisor now, decent money but never quite enough, especially with Emma's medical bills piling up from her ongoing treatment for juvenile diabetes. "Daddy, can we sit down?" Emma whispered, her small hand squeezing his. She was 9 years old, small for her age, with her father's dark eyes and a bravery that broke his heart daily. Marcus forced his legs to move, guiding Emma toward a table on the opposite side of the cafe, his back to Sarah. He couldn't afford to get lost in the past, not when he was counting change to buy his daughter a hot chocolate and a muffin they'd share. The barista, a teenager with purple hair, looked impatient as Marcus carefully counted out crumpled bills and quarters. "1 hot chocolate and 1 blueberry muffin," he said, avoiding her eyes. Behind him, a voice he'd never forgotten said, "Marcus!" He turned slowly. Sarah stood 3 feet away, and up close he could see she'd become stunning in a way that went beyond physical beauty. She wore an elegant navy suit that probably cost more than his monthly rent, and there was a confidence in her posture that hadn't been there before. But her eyes held the same warmth, now mixed with shock and something that might have been joy. "Sarah," he managed, his voice rough. "It's been a long time, 15 years, she said softly. Then her gaze dropped to Emma, and her expression melted into something tender. "Is this your daughter?" "Emma, say hello to Ms. Chen. She's an old friend of Daddy's." Emma, never shy, smiled brightly. "Hi, I'm Emma. I'm 9, and I like science and drawing, and my dad makes the best pancakes even though they're always a little burned." Sarah laughed, a sound that transported Marcus back to library study rooms and whispered secrets. "Burned pancakes are the best kind. May I join you?" Before Marcus could find a polite way to decline, Emma was scooting over, patting the seat beside her enthusiastically. Sarah ordered 3 hot chocolates and a plate of pastries from the hovering barista, waving away Marcus's protests. "So what have you been up to?" Sarah asked, and the question was so loaded with history that Marcus almost laughed. He gave her the sanitized version. He worked in construction, had been married briefly, was raising Emma on his own. He didn't mention the mounting debt or the second job he was hoping to pick up on weekends or the way he sometimes sat in his car after work. too exhausted to face another night of pretending he had everything under control. Sarah listened with an intensity that made him uncomfortable. When he finished, she said quietly, "You became a father. You're building a life with your daughter. That's beautiful, Marcus. What about you?" he asked, deflecting. "Did you keep your parents' restaurant going?" Something flickered across her face. "I did, actually. For about 3 years, until my mother convinced me to go back to school. I finished my degree online while managing the restaurant, then sold it when I got into an MBA program at Stanford." She paused, seeming to choose her words carefully. "I started a company after that. We develop affordable, renewable energy solutions for low-income communities." Marcus stared at her. "You did it. You actually did it." "We did well," she said, understating what Marcus would later learn was a massive understatement. Sarah's company, Greenwave Technologies, was valued at over $300 million. She'd been featured in Forbes, spoken at the United Nations, and revolutionized how developing nations accessed solar power. She was exactly who she'd always been meant to become. Emma, growing restless, asked if she could look at the books on the cafe's community shelf. When she was out of earshot, Sarah leaned forward. "Marcus, I need to tell you something. I've thought about you every single day for 15 years. Wondered if I made the right choice. Wondered if you were happy." "Sarah, let me finish. When I walked away from you, it was the hardest thing I'd ever done. I told myself I was being selfless, that I was protecting your future. But the truth is, I was scared. Scared of failing, scared of dragging you down with me." Her eyes glistened. "I've built this successful company, this life that looks perfect on paper. But I've been alone. Because nobody ever measured up to you." Marcus felt something crack open in his chest. "You didn't drag me down. You were never holding me back, Sarah. Losing you, that broke me in ways I've never fully recovered from." They sat in silence, years of what-ifs hanging between them. Then Emma returned, clutching a worn copy of Charlotte's Web, and the spell broke. Sarah checked her watch and stood reluctantly. "I have a board meeting. But Marcus, can I give you my number? I'd love to take you both to dinner." "Catch up properly!" Pride warred with desperation in Marcus's gut. He should say no. He should protect himself and his daughter from the inevitable heartbreak of reconnecting with someone who lived in a completely different stratosphere. But Emma was looking up at Sarah with stars in her eyes, and Marcus found himself nodding. Sarah wrote her number on a napkin, then paused. "One more thing. I'm actually in Portland for the next 6 months overseeing a new project. We're looking for a construction supervisor who understands sustainable building practices. Someone with integrity." She met his eyes meaningfully. "The position pays well, includes full health benefits, and flexible hours for parents. Would you be interested in interviewing?" Marcus's throat tightened. "Sarah, I can't accept charity. It's not charity. It's business. I need someone I can trust. Someone who understands what we're trying to build." She softened. "And maybe it's also the universe giving us a second chance. To be friends, if nothing else. To see what might have been." After she left, Marcus sat staring at the napkin, his mind reeling. Emma munched contentedly on a chocolate croissant Sarah had insisted they take home. "I like her," Emma announced. "She has kind eyes. Like you." Marcus called the number that evening. The interview was scheduled for the following Tuesday. The job was real, the salary more than he'd dared dream about, and the health insurance would cover all of Emma's medical needs. Sarah had been professional, warm, but not pushy. She'd given him space to make his own choice. He got the job, not because of their history, but because he'd spent 15 years learning how to build things that lasted despite impossible circumstances. The other board members had conducted the final interview, and Sarah had recused herself from the decision. Over the following months, Marcus and Sarah rebuilt their friendship slowly, carefully. Emma became Sarah's shadow, fascinated by the woman who talked about solar panels and wind turbines with the same enthusiasm Marcus brought to discussing structural engineering. Sarah attended Emma's school science fair. Marcus found himself invited to company dinners, gradually becoming part of Sarah's professional world. 6 months after that chance meeting at the cafe, Marcus sat on a park bench watching Emma play with other kids. something his improved insurance and reduced stress had made possible more often. Sarah sat beside him, their shoulders touching. "Thank you," he said quietly, "for everything. The job, the friendship, the second chance." "Thank you for letting me back in," Sarah replied. "I meant what I said that day. I never stopped thinking about you, never stopped regretting that I let fear make me push away the best thing I'd ever had." Marcus took her hand, marveling at how natural it felt. "We were kids. We both needed to become who we were meant to be. Maybe we needed those 15 years. And now I think we're both finally ready." He turned to face her fully. "I'm still a single dad with baggage and responsibilities. My life is complicated. Emma will always come first. I'm a workaholic CEO with trust issues and a schedule that's insane," Sarah countered. "But Marcus, I've spent 15 years building a company, building wealth, building a reputation. And I'd trade it all for one more chance with you, for the chance to be part of Emma's life, to build a family." Emma came running over, breathless and grinning. "Daddy, Sarah, watch this!" She demonstrated some complicated playground maneuver that made both adults' hearts leap into their throats. But she landed safely, triumphant, and in that moment, Marcus saw their future with sudden clarity. Sarah had achieved the dreams they'd once shared. He'd built something different but equally valuable, a relationship with his daughter built on love and sacrifice and showing up every single day. Together, they could build something even better. "So dinner tonight?" Sarah asked, smiling. "The three of us?" "Like a family," Emma said hopefully. Marcus looked at his daughter, at the woman who'd once broken his heart and had just put it back together, and felt something he hadn't experienced in years: hope. "Yeah," he said, squeezing Sarah's hand while pulling Emma close. "Like a family." The cafe where they'd reunited became their place. Every Sunday morning, the three of them would meet there, Marcus, Emma, and Sarah, sharing hot chocolate and pastries and building a future none of them had dared imagine. Sarah had spent 15 years becoming a millionaire CEO, but she'd discovered that the greatest wealth had been waiting for her all along in a struggling single dad and his brave daughter, teaching her that success wasn't measured in dollars or board meetings, but in the simple, profound gift of coming home to people who loved you. Sometimes the universe takes things away not as punishment, but as preparation. Sometimes goodbye is just a long pause before hello. And sometimes the greatest love stories are the ones that give us time to become worthy of the happiness waiting on the other side of heartbreak.